Hello everyone and welcome. In this video we are comparing a professional driver in an Acura NSX to a complete amateur. That would be myself, driving the Alfa Romeo Giulia my first day at Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca. Now yes, there is a performance gap between the two cars, but the biggest performance gap is really between the two drivers. The NSX driver is also held up a bit by traffic at the beginning, and I'm riding shotgun with him, so he's got some additional weight as well. You can see once the NSX gets out of traffic, however, that I'm completely left behind. Now, analyzing these videos side by side, it's easy for me to see three major areas that allows the professional driver to destroy my pace. First of all, the pro does a nice job of using the entire track. I occasionally do well at hitting the apex, but tend to not bring the car out wide enough and make use of all the space available. Second, I brake way too early. Part of this was intentional. This event was designed to evaluate cars, not set the fastest lap times, so I was super conservative with braking to make sure I didn't run into any scary situations. But there is also a part where I'm simply not confident enough to brake later, as the pro driver does very well. Third, I don't carry enough speed in the corners. That is to say, not only do I brake too early, but I brake way too much. Now this again is a confidence thing, and I don't want to end up off the track and find myself banned from the event, so I played it safe. That said, the professional driver is also playing it safe for his own limits and still absolutely crushing my pace. On the main straight, you can see a difference in our, manliness. The NSX remains flat out over the crest and then deep into the braking zone before heavily slowing down, then touching a minimum speed of 42 miles per hour around the double apex. I, on the other hand, lift very early. For those of you who haven't driven this track, this was the most terrifying portion of it for me. You come over the crest, you're nearly weightless, and somehow you're supposed to remain calm and keep charging ahead to a downhill brake zone. Ideally, you'll keep your foot down, wait for the weight of the car to resettle after coming over the crest, and once you're planted again, slam on the brakes before entering turn 2. Of course, much more easily said than done, as it's extremely unnerving to try to turn a car while you feel weightless. I did manage a minimum speed of 43 miles per hour, the only portion of the track where I was traveling at a quicker speed than the NSX for an extremely brief moment in time. Basically, I'm a race car driver. The NSX manages its first lap in 1 minute 43 seconds, and 12 seconds later I decide to join it at a minute 55. Entering the second lap, the NSX has no traffic to deal with, so it's off to a better start. As you can see, the NSX GPS data got a bit wacky, so you'll notice the course tracker isn't providing much useful information. Now the reason I chose to compare the Giulia in this video is because it was my fastest lap, actually my fastest 2 laps of the day. I drove 17 cars in total, including the Jaguar F-Type SVR and AMG C63, but the lap times weren't near as good as my Giulia laps. And while the NSX is clearly a better performing car, the Giulia is an amazing package. 505 horsepower twin-turbo V6 engine, that V at 90 degrees to help keep the center of gravity low. I felt quite confident driving it in comparison to many of the other cars I tested this day. It had an amazing balance to it that was highly predictable to drive. If you're curious about why I chose the Cooper Tires bridge as the starting point, it's because it allowed for me to have 2 full-timed laps, since we entered from the pits on our first lap, coming into turn 3, and then exit before the straight on our third lap after turn 10. The NSX manages a 141.57 lap. Once again, I follow the NSX 12 seconds later, posting a 153.79. Okay, so what we are looking at here is the performance data which I recorded with my VBox Sport. And so on the left you can see the track, and then on the right we are plotting speed with respect to the position on the track. So you can see the position marked by the X on the track, and so as I scroll you can see the cars going around the track, and so this is simply showing how fast each car is going at that exact position on the track. So for example, let's pick this peak right here. I am in red here in the Giulia, and then the pro driver is in green in the NSX. He's traveling at 112 miles per hour right there at turn 7, and I am traveling at 104 miles per hour there at turn 7. Now, you can see the fastest speed reached by either of us was 125 miles per hour there in turn 1 by the NSX. I don't know what I was doing. You know, I was really just being super cautious here and not getting on the accelerator much. My first lap, actually, here's my first lap. I was actually going much quicker than my second lap, even though my second lap was the faster last lap time. So I did, better cornering on my first lap. But so the highest speed there, 125 in the NSX. The lowest speed coming out of turn 11 right here, I was just traveling 34 miles per hour. And so, the interesting thing, comparing a professional driver in green versus my amateur self in red, you'll notice he's a lot more smooth with acceleration and then deceleration. It's one motion then the other. You accelerate, then you decelerate. You accelerate, then you decelerate. And so I'm kind of, I've got these little peaks in here where I'm all over the place. Like, for example, right here, where I am coming down in speed, then back up, then back down, then back up. Not really consistent there. And you'll also notice my cornering speeds are significantly less. So at each corner, I'm significantly slower going around it, except for the double apex here, turn 2, my one moment of glory where I'm traveling just slightly quicker than the NSX, 45.7, so 2 miles per hour faster than the NSX. But as you can see, he gets on the accelerator much earlier, or gets on the gas much earlier, and then I'm waiting a little bit before I'm coming out of that turn and then getting on the gas. So he's doing it better overall. I just happen to be going slightly quicker at one portion. And, you can see that overall, pretty much any time anywhere else on the track, he's traveling at a faster speed than I am. So pretty interesting to see. If I compare my first and second lap times, that was what we were just looking at was both of our fastest lap times. So here you can see my second lap in green and my first lap here in red. So I went much faster on my first lap at turn 1, but other than that, I was pretty much quicker everywhere else in my second lap. So you can see I cornered much quicker on my second lap. There's a big gap there in cornering speed. And overall had a better line, better acceleration and deceleration curve going on. Now, if we compare the 2 laps of the NSX driver, the professional driver, you can see he was very consistent with his speeds. The beginning was not, and that was purely because he was sitting in traffic right when we got started. So the second lap in green, he was able to go much quicker because he didn't have to worry about those cars ahead of him. But you can see his lap is pretty consistent overall. He's doing the same thing versus if you look at my 2 laps, they're kind of all over the place. So, I'm not a consistent driver. I did go quicker the second time, but, the laps themselves are not nearly as beautiful as far as accelerate, decelerate, where you stay on that traction circle and maximize how much grip you have. So pretty cool overall to see, the difference between someone who doesn't spend much time at a racetrack versus someone who has experience with it. Once again, here are both of our fastest laps, and you can just see he's killing it. I mean, the cornering speed is so much higher, and, the top speeds are so much higher. And part of that, of course, is the NSX being a quicker car, but most of it, in this case, is just because I don't quite know what I'm doing, and this driver is actually pretty good. I will include links in the video description to the tools which I used to put this video together, including the GPS camera and the V-Box Sport used to analyze the track times. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching.